The introduction. Japan occupied the Philippines for over 3 years, until the surrender of Japan. A highly effective guerrilla campaign by Philippine resistance forces controlled 60% of the islands, mostly jungle and mountain areas. MacArthur supplied them by submarine and sent reinforcements and officers. Filipinos remained loyal to the United States partly because of the American guarantee of independence and also because the Japanese had pressed large numbers of Filipinos into work details and even put young Filipino women into brothels. Japanese invasion in 1941. On December 8, Japan launched a surprise attack in the Philippines hours after the attack of Pearl Harbor. Japanese troops attacked the islands in many places and launched a pincer drive on Manila. Aerial bombardment was followed by landings of ground troops in Luzon. MacArthur's indecisions combined with his poor military judgment and slackness in his command structure led to the destruction of half of his air force on the ground and his troops being denied adequate supplies to withstand a lengthy siege. The declaration of war. Japanese occupied the Philippines in 1942. Bataan and Corregidor fell to the Japanese. The Japanese had already investments in the Philippines before the war so that they operated hemp plantations, canneries, and other commercial ventures. The impact of Japanese occupation. The Japanese influence. During the Japanese occupation of the Philippines during World War II, the Japanese influenced the government in the Philippines by enforcing a strict curfew, adding Japanese currency, instituting a military government, and reducing neighborhood government systems by half. The occupation also cost the lives of over 1 million people in the Philippines.
Martial law in the Philippines. Some orders that implement during martial law. First, surrender of firearms. Those who were still caught with weapons were detained at dungeons of Fort Santiago and in other detention. Second, curfew starting 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. then from midnight to 6 a.m. Third, prohibition of singing and national anthem and raising the flag. Fourth, ordering all public officials to continue discharge to their duties. Fifth, proclamation of order wherein for every Japanese killed, 10 Filipinos' lives will be taken in return.
Bataan Death March. One of the most tragic that happened during the Japanese occupation. They were forced to march for about 65 miles in searing tropical heat with provisions, food, water, shelter, or medicine. Those who can longer work were bayoneted or beaten to death. It claimed 10,000 Filipino lives and 250 to 650 American troops dead. Another 20,000 died inside the prison camp of Camp O'Donnell. The death march raced for 8 days, start on April 9, 1942 to April 17, 1942.
Japanese roles for Filipinos. 1. Salutations for Filipinos to the Japanese. 2. Japanese flag should be displayed in every house door. 3. Everybody must put the sunrise armband on the left arm. 4. Everybody should have the certificate of residence. 5. Don't escape Japanese every time you meet them, rather welcome them. 6. Unless you do not tell false prices, you will be paid reasonable. 7. Prohibition to walk until the sunset, until the sunrise without carrying lamps. 8. Don't be fooled and bewildered by false propaganda by communists, bandits, and Chinese. 9. Incendiarism, accidental fire, and robbery will be punished. 10. The holding of arms is allowed by the army, but the arms holder must report to the mayor and get permission. 11. The jobless people can find one's jobs in army. 12. Be obedient to the orders of governors and mayor who are authorized. Guerrilla movement. An organized effort by some portion of the Filipino people, including some American soldiers to resist the legally established government by Japanese. Major Claude A. Thorpe led guerrilla headquarters in Zambales Mountain. Puppet government, a government which is endowed with the outward symbols of authority, but in which direction and control are exercised by another power. Manila Mayor George Vargas was tasked to organize a civil government.
Constitution during Japanese occupation. Lots of building residential areas were being destroyed due to the bombing of Japanese. They ran the Filipinos with an iron hand, imposed curfews. Blackouts were lifted. Detention camps became places of torture. Singing the national anthem and raising flag was prohibited. Arbitrary arrests and executions were done by Kimchal military police any time of day.
The Japanese propaganda. Japanese propaganda during World War II was designed to assist the ruling government of Japan during that time. Many of its elements were continuous with pre-war elements of Satism in Showa Japan, including the principles of Kokatai, Haikoichu, and Bushido. New forms of propaganda were developed to persuade occupied countries of the benefits of the Greater Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere, to undermine American troops' morale, to counteract claims of Japanese occupiers, and to present the war to the Japanese people as victorious. It started with the Second Sino-Japanese War, which emerged into World War II. It used a large variety of media to send its messages. The Second Philippine Republic. The new republic was inaugurated on October 14, 1943 in the front step of the Legislative Building in Manila. The Philippines flag was hoisted as the national anthem was played. Meanwhile, the Japanese started using propaganda to gain the trust and confidence of Filipinos who refused to cooperate with them. They hung giant posters and distributed their materials that contained such slogans as "The Philippines belong to the Filipinos." They also used newspapers, movies, and others to publicize the same idea. Promoting Japanese propaganda was one of the main objectives of the Kalibapi, but still Japanese failed to gain the trust of the Filipinos. The Kalibapi. Kalibapi soon claimed a membership that ran into the hundreds of thousands. The islands were declared officially independence as the Second Philippine Republic on 1943, October 14, under the presidency of Jose P. Laurel and his Kalibapi government. This had been accomplished through the Preparatory Committee for Philippine Independence, which Kalibapi has established the mid-1943 under Japanese direction.
The Second Republic of the Philippines. The Road to Japanese. Sponsored independence. In an attempt to win the loyalty of the Filipinos, Japanese Prime Minister Hideki Toho in January 1492 announced that Japan would grant the Philippines the honor of independence. May 6, 1943, Prime Minister Toho announces offer the independence in Manila. The Kalibapi then formed the Preparatory Committee on Philippines Independence, PCPI, which has a task to draft a new constitution for the Philippines. The Kalibapi repeated constitutions on September 7, 1943, and the PCPI approved the new constitution on September 14, 1943. Jose P. Laurel, President of the Second Republic, known for his distinguished career as a Supreme Court Justice and as politician, elected in 1925 to the Philippine Senate and would serve one term before losing his re-election bid to Claro M. Recto. In 1934, he was again elected as delegate to the 1935 Constitutional Convention, where he headed the Committee on the Bill of Rights. He was the Secretary of Justice when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in December 1941. In 1943, the assumed presidency under the Japanese sponsors independence.
End of Japanese occupation, 1945. A great U.S. victory. It effectively destroyed the Japanese navy and opened the way for the recovery of all the islands. On January 1945, Luzon was invaded by MacArthur's forces and Manila was taken in February. On July 5, 1945, MacArthur announced all the Philippines are now liberated. Finally, on September 2, 1945, Japan formally surrendered to the U.S. forces.
Mid-December, Americans reached Mindanao, Japanese secured areas. January 9, 1945, U.S. Liberation Force successfully docked at Lingayen Gulf. Lt. Gen. Tomoki Yamashita as Supreme Commander of the Japanese troops immobilized his kamikazes, but they failed to stop the Americans. It took 3 weeks intense fighting before Japanese troops in MNL mobilized kamikazes, but they failed to stop the Americans. It took 3 weeks intense fighting before Japanese finally surrendered on February 3, 1945. Jean MacArthur continued to liberate other parts of the country. July 4, 1945, proclaimed freedom from the Japanese occupation. The Supreme Court categorized the Philippine Executive Commission and the Second Republic as a de facto acquired by right or not government, in contrast to the remaining rightful or legitimate status of the Commonwealth government. While this means no laws or regulations from the Second Republic are legally recognized, President Laurel has been included in the roster of Philippine President 1960. Restoration. The return of General Douglas MacArthur. October 20, 1944. They landed in Leyte. October 23-26, 1944. Americans engaged Japanese force in Battle of Leyte. October 23-26, 1944. Americans engaged Japanese force in Battle Leyte of Gulf. Almost destroyed the entire Japanese fleet, signified the beginning of the Philippine liberation from Japanese resistance and restoration. Japanese occupation of the Philippines was opposed by active and successful underground and guerrilla activity that increased over the years and that eventually covered a large portion of the country. The